Hello there. In this video, I'm going to talk about the accessibility dev tools. Okay, so let's say if you want to know what is it that's going to be used when the screen reader announces that element. So if you want to ever test it, whether it's focusable or not, you can go ahead and inspect element like that. And then over here, you have this accessibility tab, as you can see. If you don't get it, just click on this and then you should be able to see it. So click on this one, and then currently I have inspected this input element, and this has a bunch of information on the right hand side under the accessibility tree. So as you can see, you have this icon over here. So this is the accessibility inspector icon, and it indicates that you are currently in the accessibility pane, which is this one, right? And it is used to inspect how the elements are exposed to the assistive technology, such as screen readers. So this pane is going to show all of the accessible properties of the selected elements, such as its name and ARIA attributes and title, placeholder, all of that information. Okay. And the assistive technology is going to announce the information based on what you see here. Now, what is mentioned over here is the accessibility tree, and it says enable full page accessibility tree. So this accessibility tree view is actually a special representation of your web page that browsers build for assistive technologies like screen readers, voice controls, or switch devices. So it is similar to the DOM tree, but instead of focusing on structure and styling, it focuses on what information is exposed to the users who are relying on the accessibility tools. So it's just a simplified tree structure of the elements in the page, and each node in the tree represents an accessible object, not necessarily every DOM element. And for each node, it contains these properties like your role, your name, ARIA label, etc. It states like it's focused or not, or it's read-only or not, all that information. So why does it matter? Well, assistive technologies don't really read the raw HTML, right? Or CSS. They interact with this tree, the accessibility tree, which are basically the objects that the browser generates. So if your accessibility tree is missing the required labels or roles or states, then screen reader users won't really get the right information, even if your DOM looks fine. Okay, and here it says ARIA attributes. So right now, as you can see, there are no ARIA attributes, and we can also see that over here, there's nothing there. And these are the computed properties. So, it's very similar to how you have styles. When you know that there are a bunch of styles applied to an element, right? And it's hard to tell, what is its final output. So then what do? You actually go to the computed, and then over here you actually see what is the style that's being applied to that element, right? Based on multiple styles, what takes the preference, right? So something similar is available for the accessibility. Now you can click over here and then click on the accessibility, and now you can see these are the computed properties. So where this will be useful, for instance, what is the screen reader going to announce for this particular element? What name is going to announce, right? So here is going to announce first name. Now, where is it coming from? Well, it's coming from the placeholder. Now, it could come from the ARIA label or ARIA labeled by, but as you can see, these are not specified, right? So that is the reason it's actually picking it up from here. So there are different fallbacks that you have available, and it follows a certain order of priority. For instance, if there is ARIA labeled by and there is ARIA label also, these two have certain values, the preference will be given to ARIA labeled by, and that's how it works. It follows a certain order. So if you ever want to see what's going to take the preference or what will be your final output, then you can always come here and check the computed properties. So I'm going to explain all of this one by one, all of these properties. So the very first one is the accessible name for the input, which is this guy right here. And in this case, it comes from the placeholder text, as you can see, right? So using placeholder as a label is not the best practice, and screen readers may not even announce it clearly. So it is preferred that you use label, right? So here it says from label not specified. So there's no label for this input. Of course, there's a problem, right? Because an input needs to have its label. So that's not a good practice. We need to have a label here. So you should always provide label for the input. Okay. Or if you're not able to provide the label, then at least use the ARIA label or ARIA labeled by to make sure that screen reader can announce the name for that particular input element, what it does. Now, next is ARIA labeled by, and in this case it's not specified, so no element is programmatically referenced to provide the input's label. If you add something like ARIA labeled by and then you give it like a label ID or something, then it's going to appear over here, that value. Then it's the ARIA label. So again, it's not specified. There's no ARIA label here. So no custom label string is given. If you had something like, let's say, ARIA label here equals enter first name. So now you can see that is added that over there, right? Of course. So that value is going to pick up from there. Okay. Label, as you already know, there's no label, which means no associated label element. Ideally, this should exist for the form fields. Then you have the title, which is again not specified. So no title attribute is applied. So there's no title attribute here. Titles can also provide an accessible name, but they are not great for usability. Then you have the placeholder, which is this one. Right now, because I gave the ARIA label, that took the priority. If I would have given the ARIA labeled by, then that would have taken the priority. So that's why you're saying this is showing as cancelled, even though we have the placeholder value, but it's picking up the name that's going to be announced by the screen readers is going to be from the ARIA label. Okay. Then you have the ARIA placeholder, which is again not specified. ARIA has its own ARIA placeholder, but we are not using it and it's rarely needed. So that's fine. We can leave that. Okay, so that's all the elements. And then you have the text box, role equals text box. So this is a semantic role of the element. Since the input is the type equals text, that is why you are seeing text box under role, and its role is correctly identified as a text box. So this is correct. Then you have the invalid user entry false. Now the ARIA invalid state is not set, so no validation error yet. So there's no attribute called ARIA invalid. If there was an attribute like that, then accordingly this value will change. Then you have focusable. So currently this element is focusable, which means you can tab into this, and this will come into focus. And focused equals true, which means currently I have already inspected this, so this element is in focus. That's what the meaning of focused is. Then you have the editable, which is the plain text, which means the content can be typed or edited and is plain text, not rich text. Okay, so read only is false, required is true, because of course we have a required attribute over here, and it's not multi-line, it's a single line of the text. Okay, and you can set value. So all of these attributes, that's what they mean basically, and you can always use to test it. And now I'm going to use a screen reader to see what it announces for this particular element. So I'm going to turn on my screen reader, command plus F5 on my iMac.
Voiceover on Chrome. Enter first name, required, edit text.
Okay, so remember, if you notice, it said enter first name because it picks up that value from here. All right. All right, then. Thank you very much. Bye.